Welcome back to How to Market Your Horse Business with Denise Alvarez. I am so glad you've joined me here today on the podcast. In case you're new to the show, yes, I am Denise Alvarez, and through my business, Storm Lily Marketing, I help horse business owners like yourself create and implement effective website marketing strategies. I love helping horse people build a sustainable business so they can be out in the barn doing more of what they love. Primarily, I focus on website creation, from website design to writing the words on the website, helping to generate leads, and then email marketing. I get that websites and marketing and tech can really be overwhelming or even frustrating for many horse business owners. And that's why through a mix of step-by-step strategies, basic how-tos, and simple formulas and methods, I'll help you not only see what's possible for your business, but I'll also guide you through the process so you can make it happen. Now, I don't know what it's like where you're listening right now, but here in Missouri, we are in my favorite season. We've got crisp, cool mornings, and the fall colors are getting ready to peak, and it is absolutely beautiful out. And to me, it's the perfect time to be out going for trail rides. I actually remember so vividly when I was in my early teens. Our local saddle club would go on a trail ride together about this time of year every year. And I remember having so much fun on the trail. There weren't a ton of kids my age involved in the saddle club, but I didn't really mind because my best friend Corey and I would ride together. We both grew up around horses, and now that I'm older, I have such an appreciation for that upbringing. Okay, I'm sure you're thinking, what's that got to do with marketing? Well, I'm bringing all that up today because I realized later on in life that I was fortunate to grow up with horses from as early on as I can remember. My dad was and is great with horses, and we were lucky enough to have horses of our own and ride horses together as a family all the time when I was growing up. The thing is, a few years ago, I realized I didn't take enough of an interest in all the things my dad was doing with our horses and other people's horses too, as I was growing up. Sure, I was around it all the time, but I wasn't really absorbing as much as I wish I would have. So I decided it's never too late to learn, and so for the past 4 or 5 years, I've really been on a journey to learn all I can about horses and horsemanship and riding and all the things I wish I would have absorbed a little bit better. I've been learning from and with my dad, and by watching videos and reading books and going to clinics and volunteering and just plain getting out there with horses and trying it out. And that is where my introduction to the benefits and power and necessity of groundwork when working with horses came in. Now, before you start thinking, Denise, I work with horses all the time. Of course I know about groundwork as a game changer. That's nothing new. Remember, this podcast is not about horsemanship or working with horses. It's actually all about marketing for your horse business. So I'm not going to pretend to be here teaching you anything about working with horses. I know that's your expertise. Instead, I want to share with you some things that learning and practicing groundwork with horses has actually taught me in relation to marketing. I'll share how you can apply these things to how you market your horse business. Now remember, you can go over to the show notes at stormlilymarketing.com/3 for episode 3 to get a list of all of these takeaways. So don't feel like you need to write them down or take notes. I'll have a list for you there. So, are you ready? Here we go. We're going to jump into the 5 marketing takeaways I have learned from my short time doing groundwork with horses. Our first takeaway is that you have to start somewhere. Okay, let's look at groundwork. At first, I was excited but nervous to get in the round pen. Even though I was working with a horse that was no stranger to the exercises we'd be doing, I knew that I'd never get more experience or confidence or results if I just sat on the fence and watched. I had to just start. Well, when it comes to marketing your horse business, it's really the same. Whether you're someone that's full of ideas and just doesn't know where to start, or you're struggling because marketing seems like a 4-letter word and you'd rather just not have to think about it, if you want to grow a sustainable horse business, you're going to have to start somewhere. Start with a simple 1-page website. Start with a Facebook page. Start with some business cards and flyers you can hang around town and keep in the back of your truck to have handy. Start telling people you've actually started your own business. Just start with something. Okay, takeaway number 2 from groundwork. If you lack focus, you're not going to get much accomplished. As you know full well, working with horses requires focus. They are looking to you for direction, and when you're distracted, mentally or physically, you're most likely not giving very clear signals. You're missing their cues too, most likely. And the value of your training session is going to take a nosedive. Again, I know that you know these things, but listen to how that applies to marketing. It's no different. When you jump into marketing your horse business and you have no real focus for what you're doing and even why you're doing it, do not expect to see results. Of course, there are many ways you can go about marketing your horse business, and many of them will work. But if you try to do everything all at once, then how can you do any of it well? And if you do lots of things halfway, instead of doing one or two things really well first, then you're probably going to get halfway results. So what should you do instead? Get focused, of course. Instead of trying every good idea you hear about to market your horse business, or doing all the things you see so-and-so doing because it's working for him or working for her, pick just one or two really good marketing ideas or strategies and really focus on that. If it's your website, focus on that for a while. If it's social media, focus on building that up intentionally. Maybe it's building a referral program or hosting an open house with lesson clinics. You get the idea. Pick something you want to do to market your business and then stick with that for a little while and see what happens. Okay, our third takeaway from Groundwork is that you gain confidence the more that you do it. I hinted to it earlier in the first takeaway, but let's explore it a little more here. In order to build up my confidence working a horse in the round pen, or just groundwork in general, which let's be real, I am still doing, but I know I've come a long ways. I had to do it more than just one time, and more than with just one horse. And every time I get in there and do it, the more confidence I have as I close the gate behind me. Friends, marketing is really the same way. For many of you, marketing can be overwhelming, maybe even seem like a necessary evil. From logos and branding to websites to advertising, emails, graphics, it can be enough to make you want to throw your hands up and just walk away from it. But I promise, the more you expose yourself to marketing ideas and just dip your toe in the water, the braver you're going to become and the more comfortable you'll be with it all. And as you do, you'll start to see results over time, and that's going to give you another boost of confidence to just keep going. And hey, you're here listening to this podcast, so that's a great first step. So way to go. Okay, we are at number 4. Your fourth takeaway that applies to marketing from Groundwork is that you gain understanding the more you do it. I'm not talking about understanding of technique here, although that's definitely probably true. I'm actually talking about gaining understanding of the horse and how that might apply to marketing. As a horse expert, you know better than me that once you start working with a horse, that horse is going to tell you what it needs. And you're going to learn how to listen to what he's telling you. But you're not going to learn that without getting in there and spending time with that horse. You know what your horse needs because you listen to what he's telling you, and you see the often very subtle cues that he's sending to you. Well, when it comes to marketing, think of your client as like the horse. How often do you take time to get feedback from your customers and your clients about what's working well, what's not working well for them? Just as you're going to do better with your groundwork when you have a two-way conversation with your horse, you're going to do better with your marketing if you actually take time to engage in conversations with your customers, both your current customers and your future or potential customers. And the more you have an understanding of them and what they need, the better you're going to create marketing materials that actually speak to what they're looking for. If you don't spend some time just talking with your customers and clients and listening to what they have to say, then you're missing out on the chance to actually give them what they want and what they need from your business. And that really is one of the big keys of marketing. Okay, we're at our number 5. Our final takeaway from Groundwork that applies to marketing is that you will do better if you have someone coaching or guiding you along the way. Now, I told you my dad's the one in our family that's really good with horses and that taught us anything that we know. So the first few times I worked on groundwork with a horse, my dad was right there with me. He would let me know when to step out front, when to back off. You know how it goes. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I didn't have a feel for it yet, so he had to help me look for what I couldn't see. And it was extremely helpful and valuable to have that. And while lots of people can and do learn about horsemanship by just going at it alone, you know there's something to be said about having someone that's been there before, that's a little bit ahead of you in their horsemanship journey to give you some tips and advice along the way. That's why so many people go to clinics to learn, or buy training DVDs, or have apprentice programs for trainers and for farriers, right? Because it's good to learn from other people. Well, in marketing, it's the same. Sure, you could jump in head first and try to do a website all on your own in the middle of the night. You can put that flyer together in a quick Word document and see what happens. And like we said before, you do have to start somewhere. But you don't have to go it completely alone. That's one reason I started this podcast. There are so many great resources out there to teach you about horses. I wanted to create a safe place for you to learn about marketing so you can take all that great know-how you have about horses and build a business so that you'll be in it for the long haul. And that's another reason I started our Facebook community, How to Market Your Horse Business. Yes, I'll share some great tips in there, and you can look to me for guidance, but at the same time, there's going to be other horse business owners in there that you can learn from who have done things that have worked really well, or when you share an idea, they can say, you might want to think about these one or two things because I tried that, and here's why I think it didn't work very well for me. So if you're not in our Facebook group, I hope you'll join us there. Go over to How to Market Your Horse Business on Facebook, and you'll find our page in our group. And then, of course, you can go over to our show notes at stormlilymarketing.com/3, and you'll find the link to join the group there as well. Now, I've also got a free website checklist for you there because I know sometimes it's nice to just look and be able to check things off the list when you're trying to create something. So go and get 4 must-haves to make your equine website dreams a reality. In it, you'll discover what every great website needs to have broken down into 4 key segments. And I've also included samples of how other horse businesses are doing each of these key elements so you can see what it looks like in real life. So go to those show notes at stormlilymarketing.com/3, and you can get all the links and information, plus that summary that I promised you of all of these 5 takeaways that you can learn about marketing from Groundwork. Okay, guys, that is all I've got for you today. Now, if you're enjoying the podcast, would you do me a huge favor? If you're listening in Apple Podcast, I would be so grateful if you'd leave a rating and a review right there in the app. And no matter where you're listening, will you tell your friends and your colleagues about this so they can join us here too? Now, as always, if you have any questions or you'd like me to answer something here on the podcast or interview someone that you think would be a really great guest, then head over to my website. I would love to hear from you. You can just submit a contact form right there, stormlilymarketing.com. Okay, last thing, I promise. If you want to get notified when a new episode is available, make sure you click subscribe on your favorite podcast listening app. Whether you're listening on your Apple Podcast app or the Google Podcast app or Spotify or any other great choices, you should be able to hit subscribe and get notified when a new episode becomes available. Now, of course, you can also get on my email list. I would love to send you a quick note every week just to say, hey, here's a new episode and here's what we're talking about. So head over to stormlilymarketing.com, go to the podcast page and sign up for podcast updates. Or if you go get that free website checklist, then you'll automatically be on that podcast list as well. Okay, friends, that really is all I have today. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.